let's get on to the videos I wanted to watch. I think the first one I'll start off with, because I've been seeing people getting cranky with this one on Twitter, is the Dove gamer ad. Now, I've avoided looking at this, but I have seen a beautiful picture of the Dove gamer ad. And let me just say, what a brave individual. What a strong person. You know, it takes, as a fat man, I feel well represented by the chunky monkey wobble planet working its way into my video games. Because as we all know, when you're like a superhero in a video game and you're like beating the fuck out of shit and you're hyperactive and you never stop, you don't get muscular. Everyone knows you look like me. You look like my fat ass. So I wanted to go through this. I know that this person has like links to like very heavy right-wing shit, but I don't really give a fuck because I don't take sides like that. I don't care. I just want to see what they have to say because I think it's fucking hilarious that they are trying to set this entire standard for video games of realism when at its core we play video games to escape fucking realism. So let's see what Dear Dove, no one is asking for this, has got to say for us. God damn, where's my armor? I need armor to do that. Holy shit. As a fat man, I feel underrepresented. I've watched it gave me AIDS and cured it and gave me cancer after. Well, it's about to give me AIDS and cancer as well. I need some fucking armor like that. Holy shit. Please get me some of that. I don't know what she's complaining about. I would love a pair of armor that makes me look like that.
Of course.
Wait, hold on. Is this being played at... okay, it's normal speed.
Well, guys, there's a new call for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and today it's in video games. Let's talk about it.
Okay. I don't know much about this PragerU shit, but how is being fat... How does that have anything to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion? Like, if we're as generous as possible about this, right? You can say like you should have, I don't know, people being able to be black people in games or white people or Native Americans or Asians or whatever, right? Because these are fundamental characteristics about ourselves that are inherent to our birth. You can choose not to be fat. Being fat is a choice. And I know this because I am fat.
Before we get into this new video out of Dove and Epic Games, please like and subscribe. I want as many people to find this channel as possible, so you know what to do. So Dove has partnered with Epic Games' Unreal Engine to work on the problem of overly sexualized...
Oh, fuck. Unreal Engine, there it is. You know my fucking problem is, I thought Unreal Engine would mean we would get better titty jiggle physics. And instead, we're getting neck wobble physics. That is not the direction I wanted this to be taken in. Not at all.
Women in video games. Here's their newest video. Let's watch.
I just gotta say, whatever video game that is the fucking shittiest UI. That's gotta be either an FPS game, or if that's anything but an FPS game, that is the dog shit UI that you see right before you're dragged into video game hell by Satan. What? Odyssey. Is this an actual video game? Because it doesn't look like it. Holy shit, I want that armor for myself.
Of course. Of course.
That's a fucking strong wheelie chair. That's a fucking strong chair she's sitting in. Roze, that's sexist and undermine the permanent struggle of people of color against systemic oppression by the capitalist white supremacist. You must do better and embrace body positivity. Well, you see, this is what I don't understand. It seems like this black chick is against this, right? So how is this against people of color? When obviously the Dove ad here is about a fat white woman who likes her Twinkies and now needs to be represented. How is this representation? How is being a fat, chunky white woman any form of representation? It's not like this is like a woman who's not built like your average regular woman. You see those all the times in video games. Have you seen like the female barbarian in Diablo 3 or a million other video games where everyone's got different builds? Being fat is not a build, it's a choice.
All right, so underneath all the body armor was actually an overweight woman, so that clearly points out a lack of representation within video games. Interesting. Okay.
No, it doesn't. I love I love these kinds of things where they've got the slow piano music in the background, because most normal people, when they hear piano music, they think like, oh, this is such a touching, heartfelt thing. I hear slow piano music, I think of Two Girls, One Cup. That's just how the internet's ruined my mind. Why'd she take the sword? If she's done working, why'd she take this? She gonna go chop some bacon? Okay. Wait, hold. 74% of girls feel underrepresented in video games. Well, that means that their feelings are wrong, because we've had female video game characters since nearly the very fucking beginning. Secondly, I'd love to know where that percentage figure is pulled from. And thirdly, I'm sorry to say this, but video games tend to be a male-dominated kind of thing. She's going back to work as her true self. Also note the male demon was fucking ripped. That's actually a good point, Selm. That male demon was jacked to the tits. Where's my representation? I want a male demon with some juicy titties. I want a male demon that looks like the broodmother from Dragon Age Origins. And if you don't get that reference, then just Google Lemon Party and it'll show you the images you're looking for.
74% of girls feel underrepresented in video games, which is like another one of those, 99% of statistics you hear on the internet are made up.
Yeah, okay.
Or Dove just put out some random survey to their already extremely left-leaning audience, and 74% of women responded and said they feel underrepresented. Let's see how this ad ends. Okay, they're partnering.
We partnered with Unreal Engine and Women in Games to change this. Okay, so this is just about brand awareness, basically.
To change this problem. Let's make virtual beauty real, guys. And she goes back out.
But they're doing the opposite. That phrase means nothing, because you're not making virtual beauty real. You're making real ugliness virtual. You're doing the exact opposite of what you... okay.
out onto the battlefield looking like her normal self without all the armor, because you can no longer fantasize in video games anymore. Everything has to be a clear depiction of who you are. Everybody's story deserves to be told, because we're all deserving of representation in even the most unrealistic of virtual realities. It's so interesting that you'll see this, and I think, don't men have the same issue, if we're even going to call it that, in video games?
Do.
Aren't the men like super strong, buff?
You know what the best part about this is, right? I think this is such a fascinating thing, because when, like, you're a guy and you see, like, these dudes in video games that are jacked to the tits, I'm sorry, when I saw the biceps on Doom Guy, I didn't think I feel underrepresented. I thought, god damn, I gotta hit the fucking gym. Look at that absolute unit. Look at any of these guys, and, like, your normal dude reaction is, fuck, I should go to the gym. So why the fuck do we have to change, or I don't know why we have to start pandering to people who are not within the hobby. I don't think any normal gamer who happens to be female really gives a shit about this. I'm pretty sure that just like the dude gamers, right? Any female gamer is going to make a character and make them as gorgeous as possible, because the idea is about being a fantasy character. I know for a fact that when I'm offline and I'm making a character for any MMO, I put hair on the motherfucker because I want to fantasize that I have nice hair. Guess what? I don't fucking have in reality. It's just like, these games are fantasy games. Why do we need to, like, pander to people who just don't give a fuck about this, are going to use this as a social issue, and then are going to fuck off into the distance? Like, it doesn't make sense.
And maybe unrealistic depictions of what normal men look like.
It's not a man purse, it's called a satchel. Indiana Jones wears one.
Do you hear men complaining about unrealistic beauty standards in video games? No, you don't. It's only ever from sensitive women, in my opinion. It says Dove wants to eliminate beauty stereotypes and build the next generation of young players' self-esteem and body confidence. They go on down here to say, quote, although the...
This makes sense, actually. Dove is a soap brand. If you sell soap to fat people, that's more surface area that they've got to wash. More surface area means the soap runs out faster. If the soap runs out faster, they have to buy more soap. So you should encourage people to be fat, because then you can increase the rate of soap consumption and therefore make more profit. That's big brain. That's big brain of them, actually. Nothing will stand in front of what women want, and if they decided that they will stuff their faces like ham planets and want to be treated like queen, that's what Leftoid will push for. You see, this is my debate of this. I'm pretty sure that there's a large portion of women out there who are just normal fucking people, who just, they want to do their shit, they want to, whatever they want to do. Maybe they play video games and they just want to enjoy their fucking video games, and they don't give a shit about any of this. But there's these, like, hyper-politicized positions that everyone takes, and the problem with all of them is, I realized this the other day thinking about it, and the fucked up part is I realized this thinking about, while I was watching anime. If you look at the way things were done in the past, right? If someone had, like, a political position or a philosophical idea, the way it used to be presented in media was, here's this idea. We're not telling you what to think about it. We're telling you this is what this character believes, and you can draw your own conclusions and your own philosophical thoughts around this, like a human being, because we don't believe you're retarded. The modern shit like this, it's like they're forcing their idea down your throat and saying, this is what you have to believe. You have to toe the line. Instead of, what do you think of this? That really fucks me off.
The games industry has made significant strides to become more inclusive. Progress needs to be accelerated to challenge the narrow definitions of beauty still visible in the virtual world. Together with our partners, we hope to make a real impact on the millions of women and girls who spend their free time playing games. Right, because that's what we need to incentivize. We need to make the video game world more realistic so that more women want to sit at home and play video games, because that's what's good for the world. Dove is responsible in large part for a lot of the marketing that happened surrounding the whole Crown Act, which was another movement for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they made the claim—
Okay, I don't know fuck all about this Crown Act thing. I have no idea what this is. You don't need a lot of people to change the opinions of millions, especially with social networks being a thing. Most of my job lately has been to hunt down those in their nests. Yeah, fair enough.
Black women were
I'll
essentially
hop
being
in
discriminated
there
against
after,
and fired from their
after
jobs
this video,
for having
so.
braids and dreads and afros, which, in my opinion, does not seem to be anywhere near as big of a problem as they made it. But nonetheless, they worked on developing a campaign on Dove's behalf and on behalf of Black women to pass this Crown Act, and it did end up becoming a thing, because we don't do anything virtuous if not for the left-leaning corporations that force it down our throats and market it to us to get this job done. You have to think about what the incentives are for Dove to back campaigns like this. And
yeah, but I just told you the incentive. Fat people, more surface area, more surface area, more soap consumption, higher profit.
The subject of video games. For the most part, we accept that video games are a virtual fantasy. And why go onto a video game and play a character that's a direct depiction of who you are as a person? What's the point of the video game at this point?
The only reason to go onto a video game and play a depiction that is like a perfect representation of yourself is if you've got either one, a massive ego, two, you're a fucking golden god giga chad of a person and you don't want to change anything, or three, because it's funny.
I was also a paper salesman, and I was also named White. Absolutely everything was the same. Except I could fly.
And this is not a particularly sensitive community. Have you guys ever been in a video game lobby?
So that your mom won't love you anymore if she sees how bad you're losing in the game.
Shut up! That if this comes to fruition as some sort of video game that they put out and market to the world, it's going to be almost exclusively women who play it. Because men do not like being pandered to. They don't like PC video games. They like to be themselves and engage in a fantasy. And maybe, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. I don't think that's just a men thing. I think all dudes and women like to engage in a fantasy in one way or another. It's why so many women read erotic novels, right? It's why fucking, even if they don't play video games, people like to engage in fantasy worlds, in situations they're never going to be in. It's a bit more toxic than that. Yeah, well, everything's toxic these days.
And maybe sometimes unrealistic beauty standard is presented to them. But isn't that kind of the point of playing video games? Getting to be something that you're not?
Yes.
Not everybody's story needs to be told all the time. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. That might be insensitive. But we live in a world where stories are told when they are remarkable, when they achieve something that others don't. If we just go around representing everyone and everything all the time, what's the point of even having a virtual reality? It's not even something to play with, it's just a direct depiction of your life. This is somewhat new for video games. It's not exactly new. We have Activision Blizzard, a massive video game company.
Oh, here we go. Okay, she's about to go on the fucking rant of Blizzard and every other gaming company and every company in the world where June's coming up, actually, where they're going to change over to the LGBT flag thing to pretend that they give a fuck about these quote marginalized groups, because it makes them look good and it works nicely as a marketing campaign, and it allows them to toe the line, and then they can say, look, we're all inclusive and shit, that's why you should love us, when the reality is that most companies should just focus on making, like Blizzard, for example, should just make a good fucking product. If Blizzard did none of the marketing for all this LGBT shit, which I think they don't really give a fuck about themselves, they don't give a fuck about gay people, they don't give a fuck about any of those rights, all they give a shit about is looking good. It's like the difference between the guy in church who would, like, you know, wave the fucking 20 rand in the air, $20 in the air before he puts it in the hat, and like the dude in the back who says nothing and then just like dumps $1,000 in because he's not doing it for any personal gain, right? It's the same shit here. None of these companies actually give a fuck about any of these people. They don't give a shit about gays, lesbians, whatever else is out there. They don't give a shit. It's marketing. That's all it is. And it makes them look good, or at least they think it makes them look good. But it's just pandering.
Company that says, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, a
Oh,
culture
God,
of
here we go.
inclusion and belonging within video games. And of course, what do you see right here? What do those stickers say? Women at Blizzard. I think by and large, if you look behind any of these movements, you will find that women are at the front and center. And it makes sense. It's just who we are as people. We are more nurturing and caring and compassionate and far more sensitive and trigger-centric than our male counterparts.
Nurturing, caring, compassionate. I agree. I think women do a better job at that than most men. Trigger-centric, I don't know. A lot of dudes have become like little bitches in the last decade or so, right? I don't know if we can say that women are like largely more trigger-centric than men. Because there are some really, really, really frail dudes out there.
So, of course, if there's going to be a movement for cultural inclusion and belonging and body diversity and all these different things, women will be behind it. And not only do these movements keep popping up, they're never asked for. If you go to the original tweet that the Drum put out about this Dove campaign with Epic Games, you'll find that it is ratioed to hell because people are
I'm
looking
not
at this
surprised.
and going, who asked for this? If you read some of the top comments on this, here's one.
Oh,
Feminists,
lovely.
quote, that skimpy body armor is unrealistic and impractical, end quote. Also feminist, quote, it's okay for a disabled woman to be portrayed as a soldier in World War II. Games don't have to be realistic, end quote.
Oh, fuck, I love that. I'm still mad that they didn't follow through on that game. I wanted to see, like, in the character creator of every single Battlefield game, every single Call of Duty game, I want female characters with bionic fucking legs just fucking booking it through a war zone because that shit's hilarious. I want to see that one dude with no arms, like, just, and his, like, I don't know, his army mates have just duct taped crutches to his arms, and he's just, like, you know, somehow working an AK-47 with the stubs of the crutches. I want to see that shit, not for inclusion, but because that would be hilarious. Oh, fuck. I don't know about the compassionate part. I've seen dudes, especially, have not being much more compassionate to strangers than women in general. Okay, I think that comes down to the kind of woman you'll see, right? That might be down to either cultural difference or a location, like a regional difference, right? So what you'll find is if you come to a country like South Africa and you end up interacting with your average person, right? Women tend to be very compassionate. They tend to be very empathetic. They tend to be very kind, right? I've noticed, though, in a lot of first world countries, and this seems to have gotten worse over time, that, like, at least in the Western world, women are told that compassion is weakness, and then they stop being compassionate, or they're bullied out of it. Right? And I think from dudes, at least, I've seen, like, the kind of guys you see who are compassionate are generally better people. They're kinder, they're stronger, they have a good community around them, all of that shit. And you just don't see that many dudes out there like that anymore. Evidences are anecdotal, but evidences nonetheless. In the West, bitches are raised to be vipers. Yeah. Yeah, but so, like, this is my problem, Tom, is you can say that statement and it'll be 100% true, but men are also being raised to be little bitches at the same time, right? Like, so the problem, it cuts both ways, and I'm sure you've seen this. I'm sure that, like, I've seen kids coming out of the West, and these boys who should be turning into men just never turn into men. They're just little bitches. And then they become like these very spiteful, manipulative, lying kind of people, and that's not what they were ever meant to be. So I think the problem cuts both ways, but in different angles.
And that's a very fair point to be made here. A lot of this ad hinges on this idea that the standards that are represented in these virtual realities and these games are unrealistic for women and for anybody who's sensitive to seeing body types that are not their own. We don't care about being realistic when we're swapping out races for diversity or retelling history to fit our own.
Hold on. Queen Charlotte. Oh, I saw this. My wife actually watched this just to have a laugh about this. Queen Charlotte being black, that was pretty funny. Peter Pan, I haven't seen this one, although that's about right for the audience score. The Cleopatra thing I've heard about. This is fucking hilarious. So this is the difference, I would say, right? If you look at, I don't know what this top left one is, but the Queen Charlotte one, that's not meant to be a documentary. That's meant to be fantasy, right? And I'm pretty sure if they did a good enough job, regardless of the race with the characters, people wouldn't give a fuck because it's not a realistic show. It's not meant to be a depiction of reality. I'm pretty sure the same with Peter Pan and Wendy. I'm sure that if the storytelling was good enough, no one would give a fuck about the things like the race swapping or whatever. But it's probably a dog shit show because they're trying to push things down your throat instead of trying to tell a good story. The Netflix one with the Cleopatra is different because they weren't just trying to make a show. They were trying to say that this is meant to work as like a type of documentary, right? And if you've ever watched any form of documentary that tend to be autistically, historically accurate. And even when they're not, they'll usually have like an asterisk. So I remember this growing up watching documentaries on the Roman Empire, where the Romans, so like they were showing like the armor that the Romans wore, and then they put this little asterisk next to it saying that we cannot fully recreate what a Roman armor would look like because we're not quite sure of some of the finer details on this, right? But they're saying, generally speaking, this is somewhat of what they would look like. So those are the kind of things that documentaries do, where they're trying their best to remain factually accurate. This shit was just trying to change the truth entirely, so fuck that. I'm sure that also pissed off a bunch of Egyptians because it was like trying to tell Egyptian people that they don't exist and that they're all black and stuff like that. I agree, I'm not tunnel focusing on women. Look at COVID, it put an entire part of the population being teachers' pet and snitches in the forefront of society. No, exactly, right? Cleopatra was a direct descendant of Alexander the Great. I doubt she was black. As far as I'm aware, we do have this, maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, we do have genetic tissue typing, and she's like, she's some form of Greek. It starts with an H. I'm forgetting the word. Hellenic, that was it. Hellenic Greek. So yeah, she wasn't black. Right, that's like known as historical fact. And I mean, it kind of makes sense because the Grecian Empire was part of the Roman Empire. The Romans went to North Africa. They went a bit into Asia. They went fairly north into Europe. So, I mean, obviously the influence is going to spread that far. So why would they not look the same or have similar Mediterranean kind of features? So that's just like alteration of history.
Woke ideology in these video games and all this different stuff that we're consuming these days. Suddenly,
wait, hold on. The Egyptians nearly started a war over this? I mean, fair enough. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like Netflix telling Egyptians you don't exist. Like, that's like, you're serious? I mean, I believe you. I mean, imagine someone coming to France and telling like everyone who's had a history that they can trace all the way back into like the Middle Ages or whatever, and being like, no, you are just you don't exist. Actually, the reality is that the people who originally inhabited France were from Maui. Napoleon was Aboriginal. um, Charles Martel was he was actually a Native American Indian. That's what they did, basically. So yeah, fuck me off as well if that was part of my culture and someone just came along and said, yeah, actually your guys didn't exist. So yeah, good on the Egyptians. I'm glad they pushed back a bit against that.
We only care about being realistic when it comes to body standards. There's even girl gamers who are speaking out in the comments saying, we did not ask for this. Here's one from Mary Mayhem saying, absolutely.
See, I was right. Even women are like, what the fuck is this?
Not. Actual female gamers never asked for this. Stop asking ideologues what they want and pretending like you ask female gamers. Here's another one that says, because physically fit people don't exist, right? You know what would have worked? Putting fat characters in video games and not pointing it out for virtue signaling points. This is what happens when you have forced diversity, equity, and inclusion. It feels, you guessed it, forced. You know, you can sprinkle in
it is, because it is
make
forced.
you feel like you're being inclusive and representing other people without making a massive campaign to pat yourself on the back for doing it. And how does this feel to overweight people, that they feel like they have to be pitied in ad campaigns made by Dove and Epic Games for just a piece of inclusion within a video game?
Good question.
Fuck, that's actually a really solid point, right? Like, in a way, this is like telling fat people, haha, you are different. That's why you're in this ad. Haha, fat guy. Haha, fat person. You're not normal. You're different. That's why you're in this ad. We're pointing out how absolutely fucking obtuse you are to the rest of this universe. It's kind of insulting. Alexandria became a bastion of knowledge thanks to the library there too. Cleopatra had some rep thanks to the family ties. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, of course we're going to have... I mean, even if we lost all of that, there would still be ways to trace back to it. Don't we have a mummy or something?
Don't you feel so good that we've put an obese character in our video games now? Please thank us. Please play our games. Please spend your money here now. It really goes to show that you pity them. And on the point of realism, do you think it's realistic to see an obese character doing some of the physical activities that are represented in these games?
No comments, El.
I mean, running for miles, jumping all over the place, physically fighting people for hours on end. If we're truly worried about being realistic...
Okay, to be fair, from what we saw... of that video game trailer, she was not running and jumping or doing any of that shit. She took a fucking laser sword, she pointed it at the demon, and the demon died. So to be 100% fair, she did none of the running, she did none of the fucking jumping. She just sat there and was like, pew pew. Now, I'm guessing if fucking... we get invaded by space aliens and we all look like the human beings from WALL-E and we're so fat we can barely stand up and we've got laser swords that eliminate them at the click of a button, like we're changing the TV remote, like we're changing the TV with a remote. I mean, we might just end up like her. We might just be fat little chunky monkeys who don't need to do anything because we're floating around on a little chair pointing laser swords at everything.
Can we accept that video games are fantasy? And it's okay to fantasize about being in a fit body. So there you have it, yet another campaign for diversity, equity, and inclusion from a woke corporation that you did not ask for. But they will continue to pat themselves on the back for doing it. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you want to see more representation in video games? Is it not meant to be some sort of...
You know what the fucked up thing is? My actual answer to do you want to see more representation in video games is actually yes. Right? That's grim. I mean, it might be the future. Think about it. Human beings make technology so we can be as lazy as fucking possible, right? But the fucked up part is my answer to that is, do you want to see more representation in video games? Is actually yes, right? Not for some fucking ideological, oh look guys, it's a black person. No, I think we should have more representation because it makes for interesting stories. Just don't push some fucking ideology down my throat. Right? I think the more you have different cultures and shit showing up in video games, the more interesting stories become, the more unique things become, because you can start to like pull in their folklore and their legends and their stories into the game, and that makes all these different opposing characters. And if they've got all these different opposing views, it makes things more detailed, more interesting, more unique. But like just fucking like reducing a character to their skin color or some shit like that is just retarded, because it's like, okay, let's say you make a space game. Okay, I make a space game. There's a black guy in the space game. And now, that doesn't tell me anything, right? Because it's like, okay, he's a black guy. Is that representation? No. Because, okay, what culture is he from? Is he West African? Is he an American black person? Is he South African? Is he Eastern African? Where does this guy come from? Right? What is his culture? What is his background? What's his story? Those things matter way fucking more than we just slapped a black person in this, or we just slapped a woman in this, now it's diverse. That's like so fucking retarded. It's like the laziest shit to do. There's an entire folklore of Africa that is untapped, and that shit would be absolutely wild in video. Dude, not even in fucking video games. Like, you know how like Disney used to take like the cultural stories of Europe? Like that's where the Little Mermaid came from. That's where Snow White came from. I mean, some of them were German fairy tales, so Sleeping Beauty is not the way the Germans wrote it. But I mean, they still made like a good kid's story out of it. There are so many fucking fantasy stories in Africa that you could take and like just scrub clean of all the horrific shit and make into a really awesome Disney movie, but they won't do that. I don't know why. It's so fucking annoying. Kirikou. Kirikou was terrible, dude. That was like the most baseline shit. That's the thing, is it's so fucking lazy. There are so many cool ones. Like, here's one, for example, that I grew up knowing. Is there is a story about the chieftain's daughter who became a dragon slayer, right? Because what happened is there's this like African tribe, and they generally don't engage in war and shit, and they're generally peaceful. But a long time ago, one of their ancestors fought a dragon to get it out of their land, and their ancestor managed to chop the dragon's wings off but not kill it. And so the dragon lived in a mountain, and the dragon like woke up one day and it started like causing all this fucking chaos. Chieftain's got 3 sons, right? Oldest son is a complete fucking coward, right? So he won't even try. The second son, I think he was a liar. So he went out, came back and said he killed the dragon when he didn't, and everyone knew he was a fucking liar when the mountain that the dragon was in just got worse and started erupting and shit. And the third son, I can't remember what his problem was, but he had a big issue as well. I think it was that he was brave enough to do it, but he was too fucking stupid to figure out how to do it. So he ended up getting killed. Watching all of this, the daughter of the chieftain saw this shit, thought it was, she was like, my brother's dumbasses. I'm the only one who's actually inherited my father's intelligence, so it falls to me, even though no one's asked me to do this. So she goes in, she figures out some plan, she kills the dragon, she comes back, she's not looking for praise or anything like that. She's just like, the problem is solved, right? And the whole story was supposed to be a whole lesson about don't think you know more than you do, don't be a dumbass, don't be a liar. It was meant to be all these like holistic stories put into one. Now that would make a cool as fuck Disney story. That would make a cool as fuck video game. And it's got all the shit they want. It's got a black chick who would be the main character. It's got all the diversity. It's got all the life lessons. But they won't fucking do it. Instead, they'll just fucking be like, here's a fat woman in a video game instead of some cool shit. I mean, fuck, if you want to do diversity, at least do it right. At least make the story cool. There's more than enough shit to pull from in our reality to make into a cool-ass fantasy story. But they just fucking... God, I'm ranting. Let it go. Let it go. I gotta let it go.
fantasy where we play characters that do not look like us and that are blatantly different from who we are in real life, let me know. And as always, I encourage healthy debate in the comments down below. Plus, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be
Okay,
notified
that's just
every
the
single time we
CTA.
post a video for you guys, which is every single day. See you next time.
Okay, well, that wasn't a bad video. Dear Dove, no one is asking for this. Not a bad video. I was expecting something more of a deep dive, I suppose, because like a lot of what she said was very shallow, but there was nothing that I really disagreed with there. So I can't say it was a bad video.